Well, we understand that the IGAD heads of state will, on the margins of the African Union Summit in Kigali next week, will be meeting to discuss South Sudan. They've invited President Mohai, the head of the Joint Monitoring and Evaluation Commission, to address them, as well as President Konare, who is the African Union Special Representative for South Sudan. And so I think the report, particularly of President Mohai, will highlight these areas that I've been talking about: the 28 states, the cantonment registration of forces, the ability of the IGAD monitors under CTSAM to verify the ceasefire. All of these issues will be brought to the attention of the IGAD leaders, and we are encouraging them to give very strong signals to the leaders of South Sudan, both to President Kiir and to opposition leader Machar, that they really need to put aside their political differences for now and start implementing this agreement. It certainly, the region itself, the immediate neighbors, have the most to lose if South Sudan slips back into conflict. And so as long as the region will remain united in their views and their advice and pressures on the South Sudanese, I think we can see progress. But the inclination of South Sudanese leaders, at least over the past month, has not been that of cooperating and working together, and so they need a push in that direction. Well, the people of South Sudan, I think they've gone through a series of periods of optimism and then periods of pessimism about the peace agreement. After it was signed, there was optimism, but then it took months and months for even the advance team of the opposition to return because of prolonged negotiations over security arrangements. And when there was progress being made toward getting Riek Machar back, there was optimism again. And then pessimism as that dragged on and on, as one issue after another seemed to delay his return. When he returned at the end of April, I think people felt, now we really will see progress. But again, because there has been agreement on doing things, but it hasn't been followed through. So to my knowledge, the state of emergency has not been lifted. The prisoners of war have not been released. There's been no progress on addressing the issues of the 28 states because of disagreement over the boundary commissions, terms of reference. The transitional legislature is not functioning yet because of a dispute over whether the Speaker, the head of the legislature, should be elected by its members or appointed by President Kiir. That issue was referred to IGAD, and we understand IGAD will shortly be giving its interpretation of the agreement on that. The point is, people need to see things begin to move. Now, you've heard about the vast number of internally displaced persons, including close to 200,000 who are actually housed for long periods on the bases of the UN mission in South Sudan. And some of them, particularly in Bentiu, have begun to leave the camps and to go home. But that is not occurring to a great extent in other areas like Malakal or Juba. And again, in Juba, until the Joint Integrated Police are functioning and responsible for security, I think it will remain difficult for people to believe that it really is safe enough to go back to homes where back in 2013 they were attacked. So there's a lot that needs to be done in South Sudan, and it's not just enough to meet and say things will be done. Follow-on action is needed. And the international partners will support, as I've said since the peace agreement was signed, the more that you said to the South Sudanese, that the more that you do to show your seriousness of implementing this agreement, the more support you will have from international partners.